Welcome to another episode of the Dope Student Podcast.
Hi, my name is Ivana,
Hi, my name is Tyler.
and welcome back to another Dope Student Podcast episode. On this episode of the Dope Student Podcast, we welcome William Bowie, President and CEO of the Empower Construction, one of the largest minority-owned utility construction companies in the Northeast. Born and raised in Philly and educated in the public school system, Mr. Bowie turned a tough upbringing and an early start in the trades into a multimillionaire success story. After cutting his college career short, he entered the trades at 19, and by 20, he was making six figures building power lines across the country. From being the youngest general foreman and VP in his field to earning titles like EY Entrepreneur of the Year 2024 and PBJ Titan 100 winner, William is living proof that hard work, resilience, and attitude can change your life. Not only does he build infrastructure, he's building hope, opportunity, and pathways for youth who may not see a way forward. Get ready for an episode packed with real talk on the entrepreneurship, college versus trades, street smart, and why the grind still matters. Let's start at the beginning. What was growing up in Philly like, and how did your upbringing shape who you are today?
Thank you. Looked like you guys did much research on me, know more about me than I know about myself. But, raised in the streets of Philadelphia was tough. It was fun, but it was tough, I was born in Richard Allen Projects when I was real young. Family was from North Philadelphia. My grandmother had 8 kids. 7 of them was, strung out on drugs. The only one that didn't do drugs was my mother. I was raised in a single-parent home, just my mother and my brother and I. We moved all around the city before the age of 7. Like, we lived in North Philadelphia, we lived in South Philadelphia, we lived in, West Philadelphia, all the way in the Northeast, every place before we landed a home in Germantown, right next to the old E9 church. The streets of Philadelphia is not made for everybody. It kind of grinds you and beats you up, and it prepares you for trying to make something of yourself and kind of make something out of nothing. So, there was often times where we didn't have food for our table. We didn't have, hot water in the house. We didn't even have, most people didn't know I didn't even have a shower or bathtub growing up. I washed up at a sink, the size of a textbook, standing in a bedpan from middle school all the way to high school. But, you never see that when you see kids walking on the street. But those type of things build resiliency. So, that's what it was like growing up on the city of Philadelphia.
You entered the trades at 19 and were making six figures by 20. What was that transition like, and how did it change your life?
Yeah, it was, when I was in college, I wanted to be an architectural engineer. And for some reason, I chose the most expensive school in the city, Drexel University. And, single-parent home, mother was just a cashier at ShopRite, only making like $3.15 an hour. And I was literally paying for college by myself. And by the time I got to the end of my first year, I was doing really good, had 3.6 GPA, just didn't have enough money to finish. So, when we talk about community inside of Philadelphia, it was a friend of the family who was in this trade who told me about it. They said, hey, you should really apply for this. We want to see you go to college, but you should really apply for this trade. And I just applied just because I was trying to figure out life, didn't know what I wanted to do. And it wound up being the best decision in my life. So, I tell everybody I was working at the age of 19. And then what I did is I tried to make enough money so that I could get back to Drexel University. And come to find out, I stumbled upon a career that actually changed my life. Making at 19 years old, 20 plus years ago, making $75,000, I was making more than most adults made in their life, right? So I was on a trajectory to do something phenomenal. And, it humbled me because I was able to make good money coming from no money, where still those same strategies and way of mindset I still use today.
You've been a foreman, VP, and now a CEO. What's the biggest lesson you learned at each level of your journey?
I think, leading people. A lot of people say managing people and leading people. I say leading people is probably the toughest thing. If you ask any CEO, of any major company, what is their toughest job? It is managing people, right? Because people are just, there's so many different personalities. And some of the things I learned is how to deal with people, how to coach them, how to lead them, how to give them the inspiration that they need to move forward and to work hard and try to make something of themselves. It's interesting that, if you work your butt off and you give 150% every single day, you will be rewarded, guaranteed. You got to give everything your all. So, if one thing I learned over that career was really just trying to grind it out, trying to learn how to deal with people and motivate them to be to their next level.
What made you want to start your own company, and what were some early struggles you had to overcome?
Yeah. So most people who enter into the corporate world, so I first started in the field. When you're in the field and you're doing construction work, you have a lot of freedom, right? You're not tied up in an office, you're not tied up in a cubicle. You're literally outside working in the elements where there's just a lot more freedom than sitting inside an office. But it's tough out there too, because you got to work in a hot heat, of 100-degree weather. You got to work in a freezing cold, and that started to wear down on me, right? So I wanted to take an office job. So when I took that office job, it was like, hey, I need to better myself because I was a kid who didn't have a college degree and didn't have that college education. So now I'm in an arena where almost everybody has a college degree in education. So I'm trying to make that work and make that happen. So, one of the toughest things about that is just not knowing. People look at you differently. So I wanted to make sure that I was going to be the best of the best. And in that corporate environment, I felt as though I was being limited to my capacity. Once I learned, I tell people this, is like once I learned the game and how to play the game, I wanted to own the game, right? I got seats at tables and in places where most people didn't have voices. The only problem is that sometimes when you get to those tables, you may have a voice and you may have a seat, but that seat can be taken away, right, at any given time. Where I seen my peers' seats weren't going to be taken away. And I didn't like that. That's not stability. So I got tired of people sitting at other people's table, so I wanted to build my own table. So that's why I started my own company.
What do you think the trades are often overlooked when young people are planning their futures?
Yeah, I think there's always been this stigma that, I think most of the younger generation parents still see people who do construction work or anything in the trades as the old pictures of an individual who's carrying their lunchbox to work, who's working hard every single day, not making enough money, not making ends meet. But that completely is not the case, all right? I think it's more or less just this picture that people have in their head that the trades just is not fruitful and is not going to take anybody anywhere. If you look at my story and look at my case, it's completely the opposite, right? It trained me and built me everything that I needed to be able to do even more, right? To be able to be sit here in this seat today is what the trades has built for me. So, one thing I want to try to push is how do we get trades introduced into kids in middle school, right? And across, not even just in our local area, but across the country, right? Bringing back the old trade schools, the old VOTEC programs that we used to have in each school, and trying to get more kids engaged to give those opportunities and take the picture that's being put in the head that you got to be a doctor or a lawyer to be successful. I would tell you that majority of the staff or the people who work for me make more money than doctors and lawyers ever will be. So, that's just my thoughts on it.
You're passionate about college versus trades. Can you break down your perspective on that debate?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a couple scenarios. I mentor a lot of people, and a lot of people are people who are in trades, young entrepreneurs who are trying to start business, high school students, and I even mentor a lot of people who went to college and still trying to figure out where should they go. It's interesting that majority of the students who went to college, who's in careers, they are still trying to figure things out, right? They're still in debt. Here they are 10 years later, still in debt, still can't buy their own house, still can't do the things that they want to do. and they feel like they're kind of a slave to their own career, right? And whereas you look at someone who's been in the trades, they don't have any debt. They're already making money. They're doing a career that they love, and they have that freedom to try to do whatever they need to do. So I think that's really the debate, is that, I think everybody wants to say your career is going to be long if you go to college, right? You have more opportunities for you. But at the end of the day, it's what are you going to do with that, and how financially strapped are you going to be to do the things that you want to do, right? And what we're trying to do is give freedom, right? Give freedom for individuals to do what they want to do, to think the way they want to think. And I think a trade kind of gives you that kind of mentality. And even if it's a stepping stone for you, some people jump in a trade to make money and do things and then go into their own business, just like I did. It just opens up so many possibilities for people. I think that's really why the debate is what it is today.
What do you say to students who think success only comes with a degree?
I would tell them this. So I'm a fan of having mentors, right? I have tons of mentors. You always want to follow after people who've been through the things that you're about to go through or you're going through, so that way they can help guide you through all the things that you're doing. And I would tell you that almost every major CEO will tell you, even after they made a ton of money, they're still not at that stage where they feel fulfilled or happy, right? So I always tell people, don't chase money, chase happiness, right? If you're doing a career or you're doing something in life that you smile when you wake up in the morning, or you're excited to wake up in the morning. It's like the first day of schools back in the day where, you had your clothes out and you all excited to put your clothes on and go into school, right? That type of excitement, right? When you're about to take a trip and you're really excited to go. That's how you want to live your whole life, right? Doing things that you love. Doing things like working with this program here where you got kids that you're about to instill in them, values and ideas that they're going to shape the world. That's making impact in the world. So I always tell people, like, don't chase money. Don't chase somebody else's dream that may have for you, right? It could be a parent, it could be a friend, it could be someone that's elder. Chase your own dreams, chase things that make you happy. But at the same time, make sure you're making an impact not only in your life, but other lives as well. So that's just my take on it.
What role does attitude play in success, especially in tough industries like construction?
Yeah, so I used to work at a company, and one of their mantras was attitude is everything, right? I always go on to the other part to say attitude sets the atmosphere, right? If you just have a bad attitude in the atmosphere, bad vibes from people, you're going to have a bad environment, right? So my first job was working at Main Street movie theater, sweeping up popcorn, right? Some people may say, oh, that's a small job. It was minimum wage. I was making like $2 and some change an hour. But at the end of the day, I looked at every single job like, how can I master this job and be the best of the best? So I played basketball. And then when you're on the court, you want to be the best player on the court no matter what, right, in competition. So I always try to carry those values that I had in sports over to my job. So when I was sweeping up, popcorn in movie theaters, I wanted to be the best sweeper, the best cleaner that was there. And I constantly worked hard where I got promoted to supervisor. When you have that type of success, when you have that kind of mindset and mentality, there's nothing that can stop you. So every job that I've been at, I kept that same mindset. Oh, I don't know this. Well, I'm going to go home and I'm going to read and study it so that tomorrow I'm 10 times better. I carried that mindset to just try to master every single thing that I do and be the best at it. And that's what has gotten me to the success that I have today.
How has resilience, especially the kind you learned growing up, helped you thrive in corporate America?
Yeah, I mean, that's a deep question. My daughter, who I brought here today, she's been working with me this summer. She got kind of a glimpse of what her dad kind of goes through. There's challenges every single day. There's challenges as I drove over to this podcast this morning, right? Every single day. There's challenges when I leave here that I have to deal with, right? If you don't know how to deal with pressure, right, you're going to burst, right? Pressure bust pipes is what they say. You're going to burst. You got to learn how to be resilient, right? And be able to withstand that pressure and be able to turn that pressure into some kind of energy and force that's going to catapult whatever is going on or whatever you're doing, such as your company, right? So when we talk about that mindset, you got to take every opportunity as an opportunity for you to grow, right? I always tell people, embrace your Streets of Philadelphia education. All right. I once told a Harvard grad that my Streets of Philadelphia degree far outweighs his Harvard, master's degree, because street smarts also can be utilized when you're doing business deals, when you're sitting in boardrooms, when you're trying to make decisions. Right. We on the streets of Philadelphia, we match and we deal with a lot of things that you're going to deal with in business. Right, so you got to learn how to translate what you're dealing with riding the sub or riding SEPTA every single day, and some of the challenges it's had of how you can make and turn that into a business decision where you're taking your business to the next level. Right, so resiliency, embrace it, and hone in that you got qualities that a lot of the people in the rest of the world do not have.
You've earned some major awards recently. What do those honors mean to you, and what do they represent for the community?
That's a good question. I'm not an individual for accolades and awards and really trying to showcase, what I do. And there's reasons for that. Just because, I don't want to put myself on a grand stage and say, hey, look what I've done. It's really, if I'm talking to the youth and I'm talking to people who I want to inspire to say this is what you can do, that's a different story. But if it's like to my peers and, hey, look what I got, that's not really me. But it's really other people that, because of where I came from, I'm not used to getting awards and things of that nature, is really other business people who really open my eyes and be like, you do realize you won Entrepreneur of the Year for Ernst & Young, which is one of the top companies in the world. Like, there's only 20 people that can say they won that in the whole city of Philadelphia. And when they start to put that in their mindset, the only thing that I jump back and look at is not about me, but, oh, look what else I can show students like you guys that is achievable, right? It's like, it's not just for me, it's for us. So, right, I tell everybody, is like, I don't like my name on awards. I like either my team, my company, or really, I would love if everybody say, you guys won this award, right? Because every day as a minority-owned business in an industry where I'm the only minority in the whole entire Northeast that owns a construction business, I feel as though I'm fighting for all of you guys, right? Because I feel as though if I fail at what we're doing, it's going to fail for you guys, because I'm not leaving that door open for you guys to enter into the construction field and own your own company. So when I win those awards, it's not like me winning, it's about us. It's like you two right here today winning, right? We won that award. So that's what it means for me every time an award that I'm able to get to.
What do young people need to understand about entrepreneurship, especially those coming from similar backgrounds as you?
Yeah, really good questions. I think most people think that being a CEO, being an entrepreneur, like it's just, a lot of money, big house, cars, all that good stuff, fun, where really that is not the case, right? Most people don't understand that a person like me, I work 7 days a week, 16, 18 hours a day, right? So working that long and grinding is like I'm constantly working, right? I think people get on social media, they're used to seeing movies, and they see everybody who, oh, they got this fancy car, oh, they're at this fancy restaurant, oh, they're smiling, they look nice, they got the nice clothes on. But what they really don't see is the grind that took them to get to that point, or the grind that happens off the cameras, right? That's what everybody really needs to be prepared for, and that's why most entrepreneurs don't make it, is because they can't put the grind and the work in. Most people can't work 7 days a week, 16 hours a day. Me, I've been doing it since I grew up in a trade, since I was 19, right? So I don't know anything different. All I know is how to work and grind and try to become the best. So I would say to most people who don't understand what it is to be like an entrepreneur, you got to be prepared to give it your all, to give it everything, and you got to be prepared that every day is going to be a good day. There's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad, but it all comes with growth, and that's how you get to success.
You also produce music. How has creativity and your personal passion outside of work helped you stay balanced and motivated?
Wow, you guys did research. Not too many people know that. I always tell people, like, sometimes people ask, like, one weird thing that people may not know I do. And I know a few times I mentioned that I have my own music studio, right? So as of right now, my daughter will tell you is collecting dust, right? A lot of equipment sitting there. But, everyone needs kind of a mental escape or something that kind of puts them in their zone and makes them feel who they are. That's what music was for me, right? So after a long day of work, hard, I can't slow the brain down. I can't stop thinking about, business decisions or what happened today or what's going to happen tomorrow. The only thing that quieted my mind was music, right? So, you know, I loved making music because I could put my headphones on and just zone out and be in there for hours trying to produce a beat or make a beat and nothing, and something like that. And it may not have been for an artist or anything. It was always only for me as a hobby. And but again, it's what I call my world away from this world. And I think that's important for everybody to try to find that thing that just keeps you and gets you into that mindset that where you are able to quiet your mind, quiet the voices that's hitting in your head, where you're able to just zone out and just vibe and just be in your feelings and really just kind of hone in on who you are. And that's what music does for me.
If you could send one message to every young person in Philly, what would it be?
Work hard, grind. Grind, 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 right? So that's the message that anybody will tell you, right? Anything worth having, you got to work for it. If you didn't work for it, it's not worth having, right? Because it's really that journey that is the key, right? I could sit and retire today and go sail off and just be in a house out in the suburbs where there's no neighbors and just wake up in the morning, sip my coffee, and with nothing to do, right? But that gets boring, right? That gets boring after a while, right? A lot of people who do stuff like that, they get that itch and they come back and they wanna do things. So, I just tell people, like, listen, it's the journey, it's the grind that makes it all worth its while. Just be a good person, right? Be a good person. Love people, right? Love your community. Love the things that you do. Reach back, right? Give back to the youth. Build them up. I do a lot of youth programs, right? And I get involved with our youth. I call that really my real job, right? My highlight of this week will be sitting here doing this podcast, right? Because I'm able to pour back into you guys what I was able to learn, right? And most CEOs don't have the time or do that. I make the time, right? Someone told me you make time for the things that you want to do. And this is what I want to do. So it's a pleasure being here with you guys and being able to break bread with you guys and kind of give you guys the knowledge that I've gained all the way. So to the city of Philadelphia, just keep grinding.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Dope Student Podcast. Bye.
That's a wrap on another powerful episode of the Dope Student Podcast, where we keep it real, keep it honest, and always keep it educational. Big shout out to our guests for dropping gems and showing us what it really means to overcome, lead, and give back. Whether you're listening from the classroom, the shop floor, or your living room, remember, knowledge is power and the trades are the future. To all our young listeners, stay curious, stay motivated, and never stop investing in yourself. Follow us on Instagram, subscribe on YouTube, and tell a friend to tell a friend, because the resolution in education starts right here. Until next time, stay dope, stay driven, and stay building. Bye.